In the northeastern corner of Utah, there's a 500-acre piece of desert land known as Skinwalker Ranch. This ranch, built in the late 1800s or early 1900s, sits on land that was believed to be cursed long before it was ever constructed. The story goes back to a conflict between two Native American tribes, the Navajo and the Utes. The Utes had been capturing other Native Americans and selling them into slavery to the United States. The Navajo, who originally lived on the land where the ranch now stands, were driven out by the Utes. Before the Navajo left, they cursed the land with what's known as the Skinwalker Curse. The curse was meant to bring suffering to the Utes for the pain they had caused the Navajo. According to legend, this curse caused witches, called skinwalkers, to appear. These witches were said to take on the form of predatory animals, like large wolves or foxes, and use these forms to terrorize anyone on the cursed land. Years later, a ranch was built on this cursed ground. But it wasn't until many years after that the ranch's owners started noticing strange and frightening behavior from predatory animals around their property. Curious and alarmed, they began researching the area and discovered the old curse. Before long, the name Skinwalker Ranch stuck. In 1994, Terry and Gwen Sherman bought Skinwalker Ranch. The previous owners had abandoned it a few years earlier, so the Shermans got it at a bargain price. They were thrilled about their new purchase. With 500 acres of land, it seemed like the perfect place for them to raise their cattle. It was a dream come true for the family. On the day they moved in, they were so excited that they didn't mind the overgrown grass or the property's slightly rundown state. However, they couldn't help but notice some odd things about the place. Inside the house, every window had deadbolt locks, and every door, whether it led outside or to another room, had locks on both sides. They also saw large spikes driven into the ground at the front and back doors, with thick chains attached, as if guard dogs had once been stationed there. Instead of being alarmed, they brushed it off, thinking the previous owners were just overly cautious because of the ranch's isolated location. Despite these strange signs, Terry and Gwen were so excited about their new home that they didn't give it much thought. On their moving day into Skinwalker Ranch, Terry and Gwen, along with family members, were busy transferring belongings from their trucks into the house, positioned centrally on the expansive, mostly barren property. Amidst this activity, Terry spotted what appeared to be an unusually large wolf near a tree line. Its presence noticeable but not immediately alarming, given the distance and the family's preparedness for wildlife encounters. The wolf seemed to saunter toward them in an almost serpentine motion, noticeably large even from afar. Terry informed his family about the approaching wolf, ensuring they were aware but not overly alarmed. The family, gathered near the truck, watched as the wolf neared, a massive creature moving with a casual demeanor, not displaying any signs of aggression. It was an odd sight. The wolf was large enough to compare in size with the fence it passed, which had 6-foot gaps between its posts. This size comparison made Terry question his own eyesight. As the wolf drew closer, about 100 yards away, it exhibited behaviors more akin to a domesticated dog than a wild predator, wagging its tail peacefully. It approached Terry's father, who, caught up in the moment, reached out and petted the animal as it behaved gently, rubbing against his hand. The wolf then moved on, showing no signs of aggression or intent to harm. This initial encounter would mark the beginning of the Shermans' profound and mysterious experiences at Skinwalker Ranch, setting a tone of eerie calm before the unfolding of more unsettling events. And then the wolf sees it, a calf, helpless and alone. In a flash, it leaps towards the calf, gripping the entire head in its powerful jaws, attempting to drag it through the bars of the cage. But the cage holds firm, and suddenly, Terry and his family snap out of their daze. Terry begins firing shots at the wolf. Bullets hit but don't seem to affect it. Frantically, they resort to swinging the blunt end of an axe, desperately trying to free the calf, because this isn't just any calf, it's part of their livelihood. But the wolf is relentless, focusing solely on the cow, impervious to the blows it receives. Finally, as if losing interest, the wolf lets go of the calf and starts to back away. Terry, undeterred, grabs his high-powered rifle and fires again, but the animal remains unfazed and casually trots into the woods. Once the immediate shock dissipates, a foul, almost chemical stench lingers in the air, a grim reminder of the encounter. Determined to protect their farm, Terry and his son decide to track the beast rather than retreat. Armed and cautious, they follow the wolf into the forest. The trail leads them to a muddy area where the wolf's prints are deeply embedded, only to abruptly end. Confounded and without a single drop of blood as a clue, they return home, bewildered by the wolf's sudden disappearance. It's only day one at the ranch, and already the family is profoundly shaken. The enormity of the wolf, its resilience against gunfire, it all points to a grave threat to their way of life. While they try to downplay the encounter, treating it as a mere nuisance that needs handling, deep down, everyone is rattled. In their hearts, they know this is no ordinary predator. This is something far more sinister. Gwen was experiencing some unusual incidents at the ranch that were making her question her own mental health. These strange occurrences seemed entirely unrelated to the earlier wolf encounter. The first odd event happened shortly after they moved in. Gwen had gone grocery shopping, and after returning, she diligently put away all the groceries. However, when she left the room and came back, she found all the groceries back in the bags. She was puzzled and spent a considerable amount of time trying to recall whether she had indeed stored them away. On the same day, another bizarre incident occurred. After hanging her towel in the bathroom to take a shower, Gwen found the towel missing when she stepped out. She had to use another towel, only to discover the original one later, hanging in a closet on the opposite side of the house. These incidents left Gwen deeply concerned, wondering if she was experiencing serious memory lapses or even a medical issue like a stroke. It wasn't until Terry had a strange experience of his own that the couple began to suspect these occurrences might be related to the ranch's eerie atmosphere. Terry had been working on installing a new fence and had left his heavy fence digging tool, weighing about 70 pounds, at the site while he took a break. When he returned, the tool was nowhere to be found. He asked his family if they had moved it, but they hadn't. A week later, while patrolling the property for signs of wolves, Terry found the tool inexplicably suspended 70 feet up in a tree, far from where he had last seen it. This discovery prompted Terry to share his bewildering experience with Gwen, who in turn confided her own puzzling experiences with the groceries and the towel. The family began to feel an escalating sense of fear. The unexplained phenomena, combined with their remote location and the mysterious locks all over the house, were deeply unsettling. They started to realize that there might be more to the ranch than just its haunted reputation. The family grew increasingly alarmed, unable to explain the strange happenings surrounding them. After finding the fence-digging tool in the tree, Terry began noticing mysterious lights on his property. At first, he thought they were simply the headlights of vehicles that had taken a wrong turn onto his remote ranch. However, the lights appeared so frequently that Terry suspected illegal hunters might be trespassing. One night, driven by frustration from all the strange events and the tension among his family, Terry decided to confront whoever was out there. As he approached the lights, ready to vent his anger, he realized they made no sound, which was unusual for any vehicle. The closer he got, the more the lights began to retreat, silently floating up into the sky before vanishing completely, leaving Terry bewildered and questioning what he had just witnessed. As winter set in, bringing harsh conditions with it, Terry faced another problem. One of his cows was missing. He searched the entire property, leaving the forest where the mysterious wolf had disappeared as his last resort. Upon entering the forest, Terry found cow footprints leading into the woods. He followed them, hoping to find his missing cow, but just like the wolf, the tracks led to a muddy area and then inexplicably stopped. Throughout the winter, this bizarre disappearance occurred 4 more times with other cattle, each vanishing without a trace. By winter's end, Terry's experiences had driven him into a state of full-blown paranoia. He spent his nights patrolling his property, hiding in bushes, weapon in hand, desperate to catch whatever was taking his cattle. One night, while conducting another search, Terry noticed a strange, silent mass moving through the trees near his property. It resembled a small, stealth fighter jet, hovering about 20 feet off the ground and emitting multicolored lights that scanned the ground. As Terry shifted slightly for a better view, making a minor noise against the brush, the object immediately shut off its lights and turned to face him. Terry felt an intense fear, believing it had detected his presence. He was terrified, wondering if this silent, mysterious object was responsible for the disappearance of his livestock. He watched, frozen, as the object then simply flew away, deepening the mystery of Skinwalker Ranch. By the spring of 1995, the situation at Skinwalker Ranch had escalated dramatically for Terry and his family. The mysteries of the ranch had deepened, affecting every aspect of their lives. They continued losing livestock, but now the animals would reappear on the property, looking as though they had undergone precise surgical procedures with neat incisions and missing parts. This disturbing trend was only the beginning of their troubles. At night, Terry and his family reported seeing unidentified humanoid figures roaming their property. These beings, described as expressionless and resembling humans, would often approach the house, press their hands against the glass, and peer inside, though their faces remained obscured. The family, terrified, kept the blinds shut and the doors securely bolted, yet they could hear the eerie sound of tapping on the glass and the murmurs of an unknown language just outside their home. This constant surveillance made sleep nearly impossible, leading to severe consequences. Terry's children struggled academically due to lack of rest, and Gwen lost her job at the bank as her exhaustion spiraled into delusion. Pushed to their limits, the family felt besieged and helpless. One evening, as Terry sat on his porch with his rifle, trying to find some semblance of security, he noticed a new anomaly on the horizon. An orangey orb that appeared distinctly different from the other mysterious lights he had become accustomed to. Utilizing the high-powered scope of his rifle, Terry observed what he described as a portal. Through his scope, the orb seemed to open into another world, showing a bright blue sky in stark contrast to the night around him. From this portal, a black figure emerged, reminiscent of the dark, faceless entities that wandered his property. This figure, along with others, crawled out of the portal, moving with eerie, unnatural motions before scurrying into the nearby woods. Additionally, strange craft were seen entering his property through this portal before it abruptly closed and vanished. This series of events deeply unnerved Terry and his family, making the ranch not just a place of unexplained phenomena, but a site of almost continuous paranormal activity. The portal and the creatures it emitted added a new layer of horror to their already troubled existence at Skinwalker Ranch, pushing them closer to a breaking point. Following the terrifying encounter with the orange portal, a new, even more horrifying phenomenon began to plague Terry and his family at Skinwalker Ranch: the appearance of blue orbs. These orbs brought an overwhelming sense of dread and anxiety to anyone near them. Terry and his family felt an intense, inexplicable fear whenever these orbs floated close by, a fear that would dissipate as soon as the orbs moved away. One evening, as Terry sat on his porch, a routine that had become a vigilant watch over his property, he noticed a blue orb appear. His 3 dogs, sensing the threat, began growling and barking aggressively at the orb. Hoping that his dogs could chase it away, Terry let them loose. The dogs sprinted towards the orb, which started to retreat into the woods. For a moment, Terry felt a surge of hope, believing they might actually manage to drive this frightening presence away. However, this moment of hope quickly turned to horror. As the dogs disappeared into the forest in pursuit of the orb, Terry heard distressing yelps echoing through the night. Paralyzed by fear, he couldn't bring himself to follow or help. Instead, he retreated into his house, securing every door and window, overwhelmed by a sense of helplessness. The next day, with the dogs still missing, Terry and his son ventured into the woods to search for them. They reached a clearing where they discovered 3 distinct piles of ashes within charred circles on the ground. This was all that remained of the 3 dogs. It appeared that the dogs had been vaporized, a grim and shocking end to their pursuit of the mysterious blue orb. This tragic event deeply affected the family, marking a sinister escalation in the unexplained and terrifying phenomena occurring at Skinwalker Ranch. After enduring countless terrifying incidents and the tragic loss of his dogs, Terry decided it was time for his family to leave Skinwalker Ranch. The dangers and mysteries of the property were too much to bear. Determined to move on, Terry listed the ranch for sale and shared his harrowing experiences with a local news outlet, hoping to find a buyer aware of the property's unusual history. As it happened, Terry's story caught the attention of billionaire Robert Bigelow, a man deeply fascinated by paranormal activities and unexplained phenomena. Bigelow had already invested millions in assembling a team of top-tier scientists with PhDs to investigate what he termed high strangeness. The sale of Skinwalker Ranch appeared to Bigelow as a unique opportunity to not only delve deeper into the mysteries that plagued Terry, but also to establish a dedicated research hub for paranormal studies. Bigelow purchased the ranch, and although Terry was eager to leave the unsettling environment, his curiosity about the ranch's mysteries remained. He wanted answers about the forces that had so deeply affected his family's life. Recognizing Terry's invaluable experience and familiarity with the ranch, Bigelow offered him the position of ranch manager. This arrangement allowed Terry to maintain a connection to the property and stay informed about the scientific investigations, despite his desire to distance himself from the day-to-day disturbances. Thus, Terry transitioned from a tormented owner to a crucial member of the investigative team, holding on to the hope that the research would eventually uncover the truth behind the eerie phenomena at Skinwalker Ranch. Robert Bigelow's team, the National Institute for Discovery Science, NIDS, was established even before he purchased Skinwalker Ranch, composed of top-notch skeptical scientists aimed at validating paranormal phenomena to lend credibility to the field. Upon acquiring the ranch, the NIDS team initiated a series of scientific tests to rule out any environmental or psychological causes for the strange occurrences reported by Terry and his family. This included analyzing plant life for hallucinogenic properties, checking the water supply for contaminants, and conducting psychological assessments. The initial year of NIDS' tenure at the ranch was relatively quiet, with only a few instances of strange lights, which seemed to affirm that the phenomena Terry and his family experienced weren't mere hallucinations or environmental effects. However, the mystery deepened with an alarming incident involving a newly born calf. One day, Terry and Gwen were tagging calves. After placing a yellow tag on one calf's ear, they moved on to others. Shortly after, their attention was drawn back to the tagged calf by their dog growling towards its location. To their horror, they discovered the calf had been surgically dissected, with only its legs and head remaining. Strangely, the ear with the tag was also removed, and there was no blood at the scene. The precision of the incisions suggested a level of expertise akin to that of a skilled surgeon operating on a table, not the work of a predator. This gruesome discovery prompted an immediate and thorough search of the property by the NIDS team, looking for any evidence of who or what could have performed such an act. As they commenced their search, they noticed that all the guard dogs stationed at various observation posts around the ranch were cowering and focusing in the same direction. The search led them towards a tree line where Terry spotted a massive wolf-like humanoid perched on a limb. He fired at the creature, but it vanished into the woods. The team pursued, finding tracks indicative of a large clawed creature, but like the elusive wolf and the previous disappearances of cattle, they found no trace of it despite following its scent. They only encountered the same foul stench that Terry had smelled during his first unsettling encounter on the ranch. Frustrated and baffled, the NIDS team returned to the ranch without any concrete answers. They were left with only footprints, their own eyewitness accounts, and more questions than before. This event underscored the challenge they faced in trying to understand and prove the bizarre phenomena occurring at Skinwalker Ranch. The peculiar events at Skinwalker Ranch continued to escalate, culminating in some of the most baffling occurrences that the NIDS researchers had yet encountered. The unsettling series of incidents began with the unexplained reappearance of Terry and Gwen's prized bulls. One day, after noticing the bulls securely within their corral, Terry and Gwen left to attend to other tasks across the ranch. Upon their return, the corral appeared empty, despite the gates still being locked and showing no signs of tampering or struggle. Perplexed, Terry checked a nearby trailer that had been out of use and secured with wires for years. To his astonishment, he found all 4 bulls crammed inside, seemingly in a trance, unaffected by the cramped space. Once alerted by Terry, the bulls snapped out of their stupor and began panicking, taking hours to be resettled into their corral. The trailer's only entrance remained sealed with intact cobwebs, making the bulls' presence inside nearly impossible to explain logically. Further deepening the mystery, a section of the corral's bars where the bulls had been held was found to be highly magnetized, a peculiar anomaly that prompted the NACE team to explore potential magnetic field disturbances as a link to the ranch's strange phenomena. This exploration led 2 researchers to the outskirts of the property, where they encountered the recurring putrid, metallic smell associated with sightings of the large, wolf-like creature. Their compasses behaved erratically, flickering and pointing toward the source of the smell, instilling a profound sense of being watched. This sensation and the compass anomalies ceased abruptly when the smell dissipated. The climax of these eerie events occurred in late 1997. Positioned on a ridge for routine surveillance, 2 NIDES researchers observed an orange orb near the homestead, similar to the one Terry had described seeing. Through infrared goggles, they watched as a black, humanoid figure emerged from what appeared to be a portal within the orb and began sprinting up the hill towards their position. Overcome with fear and haunted by the familiar rotting smell, they remained motionless as the creature passed close by, charging into the mountainside with remarkable speed. These incidents painted a picture of an environment laden with inexplicable and terrifying phenomena, challenging the researchers' understanding of reality and pushing the boundaries of scientific explanation at Skinwalker Ranch. The flurry of paranormal activity at Skinwalker Ranch seemed to wane by 1998, with only sporadic occurrences of the strange lights that had initially drawn attention to the property. Despite the ongoing presence of the National Institute for Discovery Science, NIDS, team, by 2004, the research hadn't yielded the definitive proof they had hoped for. Although they captured footage of unexplained lights and documented cases of mysteriously mutilated cattle, as well as numerous eyewitness accounts, the evidence was inconclusive. This lack of solid proof was a source of deep frustration for Robert Bigelow, Terry and his family, and the entire NIDES team. The general feeling among them was of an elusive presence, always one step ahead, leaving only fleeting traces of its existence. They struggled with the challenge of capturing clear, undeniable evidence. The technology of the late 90s didn't help, lacking the instant, high-quality digital recording capabilities that we take for granted today. They managed only to gather images of lights and the aftermath of bizarre incidents, which was far from the smoking gun they needed. The mystery of Skinwalker Ranch has since been the subject of numerous books written by members of the NIDES team. These researchers, along with many others, continue to believe that the events they witnessed were genuinely paranormal. Skinwalker Ranch remains one of the most discussed and debated paranormal sites, often cited as a credible instance of such phenomena. For those intrigued by the unexplained, the story of Skinwalker Ranch offers a rich tapestry of mystery and the unknown, inviting speculation, debate, and further investigation. What are your thoughts? Do you believe the phenomena at Skinwalker Ranch were real, or is there another explanation?